I don't know if that volume does anything. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. I know it's like right before finals week and also after Thanksgiving when we took a break. So really appreciate it. But this is our last workshop of the quarter, and today we're going to be teaching you guys deployment. So yes, my name is James again I don't know if I have not introduced myself to you guys. Today for the ACM membership portal, this is the sign-in. So if any of you are still doing that, then you can always refer to it. Also, could someone post the slides on Discord? All right. So again, here's the overview of our curriculum for throughout these entire 7 weeks now it's been. So we've covered everything or a lot of the basic fundamentals of getting started with web dev. So today we're going to finish it up. And as a note, this is the same note we put all the time, but you don't need to code along, or we recommend not doing it, but I mean, you can do whatever you want. And I will update the demo with the link of this afterwards with the live site that we're going to deploy today. So to get started, what is deployment? Does anyone have any guesses, first of all? Also, we got a bunch new prizes. We're also going to do a Kahoot after this, and we have like some actually really nice ones. We like completely restocked the squishies, and there were so many that they exploded, and we have a bunch of these things. But I guess for some squishes, does anyone want to take a gander? And if not, it's also okay. Yeah.
Making the website available to anybody who has access to the internet. So like making it public.
Yeah. Do you want one of these?
Yes.
This is a Stegosaurus. Woo. Nice cache. Okay, yeah. So deployment is, for context, right now, whenever we've been developing on our website, we only see it locally, right? It's only on our computer, and we have to run npm run dev to really see it at all or make any changes. But most websites don't work that way, right? Because you can obviously like access Canvas and stuff without needing to run a command on your computer. So how do we go about doing this? Well, we do that with deploying, which is basically how we get the changes from our source code into another environment, which in our case will be the internet. So we're basically moving our website from only being on our computer right now to somewhere that anyone can see it, and that you can also share it with other people. So right now there's actually a lot of existing ways to deploy stuff. There's, I don't know if you guys have heard of these, but there's Vercel, Firebase, Netlify, Replit, Render, Heroku, GitHub pages, and GitLab pages, which I didn't know existed until making this. But these are all very popular and valid ways to deploy a site. We actually use Netlify for one of our ACM hack sites. This is for the Hack on the Hill site, which we will probably, or you guys will probably see it in the winter when we have Hack on the Hill. But for today, we're going to focus on GitHub pages because it is one of the most popular ones of this list, and it is great at the specific use case we're looking for right now. So what is GitHub pages, right? Well, GitHub pages is something known as a static site hosting service. What you really need to know is it just lets us publish our websites for free. And the domain name is kind of ugly. That's what like the format it looks like. So it'll be like HTTPS followed by whatever your username is, and then github.io. But you can always buy your own domain name and swap it out. And domain names usually go for like, they can be pretty expensive, but you can usually get some good ones for like a couple dollars for like an entire year. And this is actually something that people really use. So we're not teaching you some like obscure thing. There's a bunch of hack officers. I found all these guys' websites. Let's look at Jakob's. So wow, look at that. Look at this incredibly impressive website. And it's all, I'm assuming it's done with GitHub pages. At least I think so from looking at your GitHub. So that can be you and a bunch of other people as well, I'm sure. To preface, there's also a couple of different types of GitHub pages sites. There's a user/organization website, which is just like your username, followed by github.io, and you only get one of those. Or you can make a project website, and that you can make like an unlimited amount of project websites. So for today, we're going to be creating a project website, just because for my account, I've already made a user website before, but if you were to make a user website, the process is like nearly identical. So before even more context before we get started, we need to talk a little bit about what GitHub actually is. So GitHub is something that developers essentially use to collaborate, and you can think of it as Google Drive for code, right? Like if you're working on your own project and someone else wants to work on the same project, how do you guys do it together? And there's not like a real-time thing. That's not how it works, but the idea is similar. There's a lot you can really go into about GitHub and Git in general, but for today's workshop, we're only concerned about deployment. So I'm only going to cover like the very bare bones basics. And we have done a lot of workshops before about Git. This is one Jenna made last year for Hack on the Hill. So we'll link all of those at the end of these slides, so you guys can check those out in your free time if you are curious. And I still don't know why their mascot is like this. I just thought that was really funny. I never realized it until like a year ago, I think, what it really was. So our code right now is just on our computer, as we've kind of explained already. So we're basically, the idea here is we're going to, oh, there's a typo, but we're going to try to get our code to a different server that will be able to host our website 24/7, like all the time. In this case, that is GitHub. So GitHub is going to do that for us. And again, I guess I should say that's specifically GitHub pages, because GitHub, the site itself, is meant for like, version control and development and collaboration. But GitHub pages will do that for us. And some very basic vocabulary, because I'm just going to be referencing these terms. Repository is just like a really high level folder that is going to hold all of our projects that we make. A branch is a folder inside that repository, with each branch, usually used to work on different features, not something we're going to be super concerned about today. And pushing code is just the general term for getting our code from our computer to GitHub. So before I keep going, are there any like questions from you guys that I can answer? Because if any part of this was confusing, then we should probably talk about it a little bit first. Okay, cool. I'm going to move on then. So, and also one more semantic, Git is not the same as GitHub. Similar, like, I guess if there was something, okay, never mind. I was thinking of an analogy that I don't think I can say, but I don't, like, Git is not equal to GitHub. Git is the language that developers use to manage code changes. What? And then GitHub is like the general platform, right, that developers are actually using to work together. So yeah, the hub is like a big distinction between those two. So how do we actually go about this process, right? So these are the 3 steps we're going to talk about in the following like 20 minutes or so. First, we're going to modify some configuration settings and install some stuff in our code itself, like in VS Code. After that, we're going to push our code to GitHub. So we're going to talk a bit about what that actually entails, how do we do it. And lastly, we have to just mess with some settings on GitHub itself that will actually let GitHub pages publish the site for us. Okay, and some context for these steps. We need to modify the configuration settings because what we're really doing here is we're adding commands that are going to make future updates easy. Obviously, or like in general, right? If you publish a website, you might still want to work on it later. So the commands we're going to add will just make it so in the future, when you make some changes, you want to deploy them again, those updates will become really easy. And we're also going to use a library called GH Pages that is going to do a bunch of automation for us under the hood. And there's a lot more advanced stuff you can do with it as well, but we won't talk about that today. For the second step, we really just need to push it to GitHub because like that's how GitHub Pages works. You need, it needs your code on GitHub. And the final one, configuring a publishing source. We are basically telling GitHub Pages some internal information it needs to know so it can properly deploy our site. Okay, so that's the recap again. And now we are actually going to get into it. Step one, we're going to install and configure some stuff. So the assumption here is you already have your site and you're thinking, well, I guess you don't need to think this, but it's like in a form that you think you want to publish. So I'm actually going to show, I have this site right here. It's just like a boilerplate site I've made for like one of my friend groups. Where is it? Oh, it launched here. Let me put it on this side. Yeah. Okay, so say this is our website, right? I added this tip thing that links to my Venmo. And it's a great website. It's actually responsive somehow. And like, there's not actually a lot of functionality. All these links don't do anything, but yay, I have my site. I want to get it so my friends can also see it and pay me. So how do we do this? So the first step, let me get rid of this. Step one, install and configure some stuff. Specifically, there is a file already in our Vite program called vite.config.js. It's in the root folder right here. So you can see the top level right here. I have vite.config.js. And what we're going to do is we're going to add this other field right here called base. And then we're going to add the name that we want our website to be called. This is what we're going to name our repository actually. And we're going to surround it with slashes. So in this case, my friend group is called Gas Gang because it's a long story. But that's why I want this site to be called. So I'm going to do the double colons and I'm going to do /gas gang / again. And that's the only change we really need to do for this. And be sure to save it as well. So you can save with Command S on a Mac, or you can go to File and then save it. Okay, the next thing we need to change is we need to actually go ahead and install this following NPM package called GitHub Pages. This is the thing that a bunch of other people have spent a lot of time being nerds about and writing to automate tasks for us under the hood. So it's going to like create a deployment branch for us and push changes for us, and just it's like very helpful, and we're just going to use it. So in our terminal, we need to write this following command, and you can just copy paste that in your slides. But I'm going to stop running this local server with Control-C, and then I'm going to do npm npm install GitHub Pages, and then --save -dev. Okay, and then I'm just going to press enter. And that'll go ahead and install for me. Woo. Okay. And lastly, or I think there's a couple more things actually, but we need to also do some changes to our package.json. So in our package.json right now, there's a field called scripts. The heck is that? And we're basically going to add two things. We're going to add a pre-deploy field and a deploy field. And this is basically defining a new command for us that is like a quick and easy shortcut we can use for future updates. So I'm going to go ahead and add those as well. So package.json again is like also in the top level directory. And up here, I'm going to just add, or GitHub Copilot's going to add for me, deploy, cool. And then pre-deploy, which is that, I think. So npm run build, and then gh pages -d dist. Cool, and I'm gonna save that. Okay, is everyone following along so far? Yes.
Does the order of pre-deploy and deploy matter, or is it okay if you switch them?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I don't think it would make sense if it did. So I think you can go ahead and switch it. Yeah. I'll just give you a prize afterwards. That way I don't need to constantly throw. Okay, any other questions? Cool. Okay, and then one final package.json change is in the top level of everything, right? So we have all these intermediate fields like scripts and dependencies. Just in the very top level, we are going to add another field called homepage. And that's pretty much just going to be like the URL of your site. So we're just defining what the homepage of your site is. So this is the format that the URL will follow. It'll be whatever your GitHub username is. If you don't have an account yet, then just like, I don't know, whatever you want your username to be when you eventually sign up. And then the repo name, which will just be the name of our website. So let me do that really quick. And I believe the order of this should not matter as well. But I'm just doing it here because why not? And I need to put my GitHub username, mwoo.github.io /gasgang. Okay, cool. And once that's done, I'm going to save that as well. All right, neat. So that's it for step one. Yay. So we're all good to go now with the second step, which is publishing the actual code to GitHub. So the first step of publishing code to GitHub is to actually, well, I guess the real first step is to create an account if you don't have that. But you can just like sign in with Google. So I'm not going to explain I'm not going to demo how to create an account on GitHub. I guess if you're really struggling with it, you can ask. But we're going to show how to create a GitHub repository. So let me pull up my GitHub account. GitHub right here. And what I'm going to do is, well, actually, I'll just leave it like this, right? This is what you should see after signing in. And there should basically just be a big button that says create repository. So you're going to click it. So in this case, I already have repositories. This isn't my first one, so it just says new. So I'm going to click new. And it's going to take me to this page that just has a bunch of, asking for a bunch of different stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch, or we're going to enter all the information it's asking us for. And then we're going to run some terminal commands. So first, I'm just going to name my repository, so cool. And then you don't need to add a description if you don't want to. That's like a completely optional thing. And the source code being public or private, it's like, it's kind of what you would expect. If you set it to public, then other people will be able to check out your code. And if you set it to private, then no one else can, unless you choose. So that's just up to you if you want other people snooping around. And you don't need to add a README if you don't want to, or do anything else. So I'm just going to create this repository. And yay. So now we have a repository on GitHub, and it's ready for us to push our code to. So now goes the terminal commands that we need to do. I guess before going into this, does anyone want to like at least guess some of the stuff we need to do like at a high level? I don't know if anyone's familiar with Git already, but okay, it's okay. So Git is very confusing also, by the way. Like, I think the first time I ever cried at college was because of Git. So, like afterwards, if you guys have trouble, don't feel ashamed about it. It's very, in my opinion, it's very like weird, especially at first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to run these commands sequentially, and I'm just going to do a brief rundown of them before actually demoing them. So that way you guys know why we're doing what we're doing. So we're going to git init, git add dot. We're going to do that thing. We're going to do whatever that thing is. And then we're going to finally push it. And yes, the whatever your URL is part of this, by the way, is just whatever is up here. It's literally, it tells you after creating a repository what the URL is. Okay, so git init is initializing a Git repository in our code. Our code doesn't know yet that it belongs to a Git repository, right? It only belongs to our computer. So we're basically telling it like, yo, get ready. because some stuff's about to go down. Then we're going to do git add dot, and that adds every changed file to the staging area. Because we're initializing a repository, that is every file. Like every file is considered new, but in the future, that'll just be whatever files you choose to update. Committing stuff is basically like taking a snapshot of whatever was in the staging area and it saves it for you. The reason this is helpful is because sometimes you don't want to push all your changes to GitHub at once. So maybe you want to, save your place and then keep working on a different feature and then save your place again and so on. So that's what committing is. The remote add origin part is just syncing up the repo to our computer, right? We've told our computer like you're going to be part of a Git repository, but we actually haven't told it what repository it is part of. So that's what adding the origin does. And finally, pushing it is just like actually getting it onto GitHub itself. Okay. Some disclaimers. You don't need to create any new branches really or add new origin after this if you do not want to. Future changes, you mostly just need to run git add, git commit, and git push. And I won't talk about those in depth again. Like we spent like hour-long workshops just only talking about git commands. But yeah, you will still need to do git push, but you no longer need to do all the weird stuff afterwards. And after pushing, you should be able to see your repo on GitHub. So I'm going to do each of those steps now. So the first step in our thing, is this big enough, by the way? Are you guys able to see it? I'll just expand it. Okay, so the first step is we're going to do git init. Then we're going to do git add dot. I'm going to low-key speed through this a bit because like it's all there on the slides. And then git commit -m first commit. So you can see now actually in the side, I should have mentioned that, but in the side, whenever you add something to the staging area, it will show you the files. And when you commit it, it'll tell you that it's ready to be published. And then we're going to do this git remote add origin. So for that, I need to get my URL, which is up here, back on GitHub. I'm going to copy that and then do git remote add origin followed by the website. And then finally, I'm going to do git push and then set upstream origin main. Normally you would just type this, right? Just git push. And actually, if you try doing this, it'll tell you like, hey, we can't do it because it's the first time, we're making this branch at all. So you can just copy paste that if you're lazy. And then, yeah, so, those are all the commands. And now if we go to GitHub and actually refresh, we are able to see this is all of my code. Like I can in fact go into say like index.html and look at it and it matches with what's on my computer. Also that reminds me of one more thing. This wasn't in my slides, but in the index.html file, there's a title tag right here, and that's what's going to be like on the little top tab, right? Do you see up here in this tab it says like the name of the website usually? So if you don't want it to be Vite plus React, you can change it to whatever you want. And just be sure to save it. And then if you wanted to, push these changes again to GitHub, you'd just do the same like add command, write a commit message with a descriptive thing like updated title or something, and then do git push. You no longer need to do the long flag message. And I guess like you can see on GitHub as well, if I refresh, like now it says over here in this file, updated title. I know that was kind of like speedy, but if that was confusing, then I can talk about it more afterwards. Okay, so that is the end of step 2. Our code is now on GitHub. And the final step, and this is, in my opinion, it's either the easiest step or the most painful step because when something goes wrong, it's really hard to figure out what is making it go wrong. I actually spent a really long time trying to debug like just a random configuration error when I was making this workshop. But I think I got the steps now. So we're going to, I think I got the steps so you guys can follow easily. So we're going to run this command in our project terminal. So remember when we were adding to the package.json, those script things, that is what, like, that's why we can run this command. It's not like something that comes with V or anything like that. So in my terminal, I'm just going to do npm run deploy. And it's going to output a bunch of stuff, but once it is done, it will tell us published. So like that. And that just means like our app is ready now for deployment on our computer at least. Now we need to just mess with some GitHub settings and then we're good to go. So part of GitHub Pages, the library that we installed earlier, the npm package, is that's kind of why we can do that npm run deploy as well. And you can actually see, refreshing GitHub, it auto created and pushed a new branch for us called GitHub Pages. And this just has like index HTML and the assets I used. But yeah, it did it all for us under the hood, which is great. So we're going to mess with the settings now of our GitHub to actually get this site live. So the first thing is we're going to go to the repository and go to the settings tab up here, top right. Then down on the bottom left, there is a pages tab. So we're going to click that. So pages. And then there's only two things that you really need to double check. You need to make sure the source is deploy from a branch, and you need to set the branch to the auto created GH pages thing. So source, mine's already deploy from a branch, and branch is also GitHub Pages as well. So I actually don't need to do anything. And that should theoretically be all. Let's see if it worked. Yay! So you guys should all be able to actually see this now. If you, I guess I can just paste in the Discord later. But actually, I'll modify the slides up above when it was asking for a link to demo. But this is the deployed site. Anyone can look at it. You guys can look at it right now if you're curious. Like just type it in on like a tab or something, and you can go ahead and mess with it. And you can do this process for your own sites as well. And we talked about a lot. So here's just a quick recap of some helpful links. A bunch of workshops we've done before and the actual official documentation that you can follow to pretty much just do what I explained. Documentation is like slightly, what's the word? Like wordy. So that's just a disclaimer. And after this, we're also going to do a Kahoot to give away some of these giant plushies. We haven't actually opened them, so I don't know specifically what Abigail got, but they're more hefty. And if you win the Kahoot, then like you can get one. I think we have like 1 or 2 or 3, and a bunch of small ones too. Okay, but besides that, thank you guys for coming, and please take just this feedback form is really, really succinct. It's like just a couple of questions that are optional as well. So we really appreciate it if you guys took the time to fill that out. So we get some feedback on how to improve the workshop. And now we have a Kahoot that I actually don't know. Or let me stop sharing screen and recording first.